My name is Cindy. For 28 years since I was born, I believe I have lived by the motto that people are inherently good. I thought that most people could understand each other if they talked openly, and I actually interacted with people in that way. But for the first time in my life, I met someone I felt was completely incomprehensible, and that person is going to be Madison's wife. I never dreamed of it. That day, my father, mother, and I were all restless from the morning knowing that Madison was bringing his fiancée. My brother Madison is 31 years old. We all noticed he had a girlfriend he had been dating for about a year. He became strangely fashionable, was often excitedly looking at his mobile phone, and even went on weekend trips 3 weeks ago. My parents and I were having a little family meeting wondering if Madison was going to get married soon, when Madison said,
I invited her to our house this Sunday. I want to marry her.
Her name is Rosa, 2 years younger than me, 26 years old. Younger, but becoming my sister-in-law feels a bit strange. Well, if I divorced your father and remarried someone younger, he would still be your father.
Then I'll also marry someone younger than Cindy, a younger mom.
My father laughed along with us, including my parents, Madison and me, plus our cats Leo and Milo. We're a close-knit family of 4. That day, Mom was excited to have lunch together and had been bustling around since morning. Course meals are the best, don't you think? I wonder if their family prefers lighter flavors. Our dad likes his food a bit richer, so I usually cook that way. I hope it suits their taste, she said, preparing the meal. The main dish was steak, and I helped with the avocado salad and seafood pasta. Rosa's first impression was that she was petite and delicate, not flashy but beautiful. And she seemed reserved and gentle. That was my initial thought. Later on, I would learn that first impressions can be deceiving. We introduced ourselves over the meal and the atmosphere was pleasant as we ate. Rosa, true to her appearance, ate little, while Madison enthusiastically ate her share. I'm sorry, I can't eat very much, Rosa said apologetically. Both my father and mother reassured her, saying it was no problem at all. As for Madison, he annoyingly compared me to Rosa, saying
it's much better than being a big eater like Cindy.
I have people who tell me that eating with me is fun and everything tastes delicious. Food lovers unite! For dessert, we were served Rosa's gift cake along with my mother's specialty. Madison's tall because he takes after his father. He's tall and handsome. My dad is just an old man, Rosa said, making my father blush a little. But around this time, I started to feel something was off. Rosa rarely spoke to my mother and me. In other words, she was only talking to the men. Even when my mother or I tried to engage her, she would only respond briefly and the conversation wouldn't flow. No, she didn't even seem to want it to flow. Excuse me, may I use the restroom? Rosa asked, standing up. Of course. Cindy, show her the way. Our house isn't that big, but this was to make sure she didn't peek into the rooms where we usually stash clutter and baggage. Cindy, which university did you graduate from? Rosa asked as soon as we left the living room. I didn't go to college. I am not very good at studying. Would my sister's education matter to her future sister-in-law? Couldn't she just ask Madison later? Oh, is that so? I think Madison said his sister doesn't work either. Hey, Madison, are you describing me as an unemployed shut-in? I'm actually a fairly popular stuffed animal artist. I create stuffed animals that look like deceased pets from photos or imaginary creatures like mythical beasts. I make stuffed animals at home. Rosa, do you have a favorite animal? If you request it, I will make it and gift it to you. I thought I was offering the best service possible. I don't like stuffed animals or dolls or animals in general, so I'll pass. But she smiled and replied. I was left a bit stunned in front of the bathroom and Rosa opened the door and went in. What was that all about? I felt like my entire life had been negated. I returned to the living room and complained to Madison. Does Rosa hate animals? She even hates stuffed animals. I tried to give her one as a gift, but she refused.
That's true. I once gave her a stuffed animal, and even though I went to the trouble of giving it to her, she cried and said, I'm sorry, I can't handle it. I ended up having to buy her a necklace. Madison said this with a smug look. What? Hold on a second. Was she aiming for jewelry from the start?
Is my heart twisted for thinking that way?
Animals, well, it's not that she hates them, it's an allergy. Like to dogs and cats? We have Leo and Milo at home, so living here would be difficult. I was planning to talk about that today.
Both my father and mother were surprised at Madison's words, but they should understand it, saying, if that's the case, it can't be helped. Leo and Milo are a family, we can't kick them out. But inside, I doubted the allergy. Sure, some people have animal allergies, but didn't she just say that because she didn't want to live with her mother-in-law and sister-in-law? I can only think that she really did reject my gift. Rosa came back from the bathroom and my father asked about how they met.
She was a receptionist at a client's office,
Madison began, and according to him, Rosa was known among his colleagues as the cute receptionist, the petite one. By the way, Madison works for a fairly large trading company. To put it simply, he's an elite. One time, the non-petite receptionist asked if they wanted to go on a group date with their general affairs department. I'm not really good at group dates, Rosa said, looking a bit troubled. But I'm glad I participated because I got to know Madison better, she said, looking at Madison with innocent eyes. Oh, poor Madison, completely in love, utterly captivated. My father was also completely charmed, saying things like, take care of my son, and,
Cindy, why don't you learn from Rosa and act more feminine?
It's none of their business. After Rosa left, my mother said while cleaning up, I wonder if she didn't like the food. She didn't say anything and she didn't eat much. I was also concerned about that. While helping clean up, I probed my mother a bit. She mostly talked to my brother and father and hardly spoke to us, right? Oh, I didn't notice because she was smiling so nicely. At this point, my mother didn't seem to have a bad impression of Rosa.
Oh, there are girls like that, aren't there? They're popular with men, but they don't have female friends. If they do, they just use them to show off.
My boyfriend, Adolphe, was the one who said this clearly after hearing my story. You think so too? What should I do? I don't like it. I can't believe someone like her will be Madison's wife and my sister-in-law. I was very depressed. Adolphe is 34 years old and runs several cafes and novelty shops. His stores are known for their unique style and quirkiness, and he's become a minor celebrity on social media. We became friends after he asked to display the stuffed animals I created in his store. His requests were for mythical creatures like the three-headed dog Cerberus, dragons, and other strange animals he designed. His shop helped me gain popularity and my reputation increased significantly in some circles.
I want to meet them too. Bring your brother and his girlfriend here next time.
Adolphe suggested. The guy was clearly intrigued.
Oh, how about using my shop for the after party?
It was spacious enough, and even though it was a cafe, it had a rich menu of alcohol and food. It might be perfect. At least it was a perfect excuse to introduce them. So with a plan packed with a venue inspection for the after-party consultation and introducing my boyfriend, I called Madison and Rosa. Rosa's behavior at that time was something to see. She was amazed by the Instagram-worthy interior and became very interested when she learned it was a hot topic on social media. I am surprised Cindy has such a boyfriend, she said to Adolphe. Not me. When she found out he managed several other shops, she seemed to glare at me enviously for a moment. I think I was a little proud. Madison, completely smitten, didn't notice his female battle at all. He was surprised, saying,
Cindy, when did you get such a boyfriend while you were shut in?
And asked Adolphe to take care of his sister. I'm not shut in, okay? In the end, the proposal to use the venue for the after-party was rejected due to its distance from the wedding venue and the concern that the quirky interior might put off anyone other than young people. It was just an excuse, so it didn't matter, but I thought Rosa might have wanted to avoid drawing attention to me by using my boyfriend's shop.
Yeah, it's better not to touch that girl. If you say anything bad about her to your brother, you will become the villain,
Adolphe warned me. I couldn't decide if he was lying or telling the truth. Would Madison trust her more than his sister, with whom he had lived for 28 years? The two families met for the first time. Rosa wanted to book a rather stylish French restaurant. Honestly and embarrassingly, neither my mother nor I had much experience with French cuisine. Rosa openly looked down on my mother and me as we clumsily used our knives and forks, following makeshift manners. And the men didn't notice at all. Same old story. I quickly realized that Sean adored his daughter, and Natalia, who resembled Rosa in appearance, was a genuinely humble and gentle person, subtly caring for my mother and me. What surprised me was that Rosa mostly ignored her own mother. I thought living with a husband who doted on his daughter and a daughter who looked down on her must be quite tough. My mother also said I felt sorry for their mother. Mom, I have a feeling this marriage isn't a good idea. When I finally said this to my mother, she replied, yes, I think there might be something wrong with Rosa. The problem was that the men were completely oblivious to this issue. Hey, Madison, does Rosa have any female friends?
What's with a sudden question? She does. You know, the receptionist who's not the petite one, she said they're friends.
The way he said it probably meant that she was at least less attractive than Rosa. Rosa, you know, she only talks to men like you, Dad, and adults. She ignores Mom and me.
What? What are you talking about? That's not like Rosa. Don't start harassing your future sister-in-law now.
No matter what I tell Madison, he thinks I'm speaking out of jealousy or spite towards my future sister-in-law. The wedding preparations seemed to be progressing smoothly, and Rosa had already quit her job to focus on getting ready for the marriage.
I feel bad for leaving everything to Rosa,
Madison said, but I thought it was just that Rosa wanted to take charge of the wedding her way. In the end, I had no choice but to watch the wedding day approach. Then that phone call came, the day before the wedding. Rosa called my mobile phone directly. I don't remember giving her my number, but Madison must have told her. Cindy, regarding tomorrow's wedding and reception, could you not attend since you're an unemployed embarrassment to the family? We don't want poor people there. There won't be a seat for you even if you come. I was frozen by the sudden and cruel content of her words. What on earth was she talking about? I had been preparing to attend, and before I could find words to respond, more in shock than anger, the call was cut off. Mom, Rosa just called and told me not to come to the wedding. What? What's going on? I called Madison. It's unthinkable that a sister wouldn't be allowed to attend the wedding or reception. Surely Madison would think so too. Madison was at work and hard to reach. When I finally got hold of him, he said,
sorry, but you hate Rosa, don't you?
I was a little tongue-tied because I couldn't deny that I disliked her.
Rosa said she feels hated by her sister and she doesn't want you to come if you don't want to. She says it's painful to be superficially congratulated by someone who dislikes her. And she's crying.
Really? She is crying? You believe that, Madison? I was dumbfounded. Was it useless to say anything to this Madison? My mother and I looked at each other and sighed. At that moment, the doorbell rang, announcing a visitor. To our surprise, it was Natalia, standing at the door. I heard my daughter on the phone. I thought it was outrageous. I'm sorry to bother you so suddenly. We invited Natalia, who was bowing at the entrance into the house, and listened to her. That child, I know it's strange for a mother to say this, but she's a terrifying child. She looks down on me. My husband does whatever she says, and he won't listen to anything I say. It's been like this for a long time, a very long time. Natalia spoke with a firm voice. Though she looked pained, I first noticed it when she was 3 years old. She was just touching my makeup, so I scolded her. It would be terrible if she accidentally put it in her mouth. But she didn't cry, she just glared at me with defiant eyes. When my husband came home, she ran to the entrance, clung to his leg, and burst into tears. When he asked what happened, I told him I scolded Rosa for messing with the makeup. He picked her up, saying she's only 3, but she's just a girl, and nuzzled her cheek. That's when Rosa looked at me and smiled triumphantly. I was chilled to the bone hearing this story. I couldn't believe that from as young as 3, she had been manipulating men using her appearance that made them want to protect her. According to Natalia, Rosa was not only good with men but also skilled at winning over powerful women. Ever since then, Rosa had played the part of a sweet daughter in front of her father and acted like a spoiled problem child in front of her mother. Even when Natalia complained to her husband about Rosa's behavior, he wouldn't listen, saying terrible things like,
"Isn't the problem with you as a mother? Why do you always talk like you're paranoid? Even mothers and daughters can be jealous of each other. I don't think you were that kind of woman. Aren't you ashamed to be jealous of your daughter?"
How awful! I was so stunned, I couldn't speak. It must have been hard. I'm sorry. I couldn't have endured it if I were you. My mother said kindly, and Natalia burst into tears. I have decided if Rosa says my daughter can't attend, then I won't either. I can't support this marriage. What? Mom? If the groom's mother suddenly cancels on the day, wouldn't that be a big problem? As I was surprised, I agree. I won't attend either. I don't want to involve other families and create more unhappy people. I have made up my mind too. Natalia also declared, crying, I thought this was a big deal, but also a chance to stop Madison's marriage. That woman had gone too far. The real mother's accusation had an impact like no other. Rosa is the type of person you must never get close to. Having her as a family member would be nothing short of a nightmare. I wanted to stop it for Madison's sake. We booked a hotel near the wedding venue and started a strategy meeting with the three of us. We left a note for Dad saying, we have various preparations the day before, so we'll stay at the hotel and go directly to the venue. Everything is ready for Dad tomorrow, and men, don't doubt when women say they have various preparations, especially Dad, my mother said. After discussion, we decided to inform only Madison in advance. The call from Rosa to me. Natalia's testimony to back it up, the fact that the three of us opposed this marriage. So, we won't be attending the wedding tomorrow. Don't call the police. It's not like we were involved in an accident or crime. Think about it yourself. My mother said and quickly hung up without listening to Madison's side. Then, all three of us blocked incoming calls from Madison and our fathers. The three of us were about to do something drastic, but we were somehow excited about it, especially Natalia. She looked truly happy. On the day of the wedding reception, our father spotted us at the venue and rushed over.
What were you doing? What were you thinking? It was a big deal.
Of course it was. It would be a major problem if both mother and the bride's sister didn't show up at the wedding. Apparently, Madison had made an awkward excuse that the car carrying the three of us had broken down on the way to the venue. The wedding reception seats were almost filled and the bride and groom were about to appear in about 10 minutes. Dad, did you notice I don't have a seat, do I? My name was not in the family seats. Yesterday, Rosa called me and told me that an unemployed poor person like me would be a family disgrace, so I shouldn't come. But it seems like she never intended to prepare a seat for me in the first place. As my father stood there in shock, Sean raised his voice.
That's ridiculous. She would never say such a thing.
No, it's true. I heard her make that call. Natalia testified. A venue staff member came over and asked if there was any trouble. I'm the groom's sister, and it seems I don't have a seat. While saying that's ridiculous, I asked the staff member, could you please just prepare a chair for now? The food is fine. They squeezed in a chair for me in the family seats. The bride and groom entered. Rosa was probably the most surprised to see the two mothers and me who hadn't appeared at the wedding in the family seats. She looked like she wanted to say something, but of course, she couldn't. Once the bride and groom were seated, the three of us stood up and borrowed a microphone from the host. Thank you all for coming to the wedding reception of both families. I am the groom's mother. I am the bride's mother. I apologize for addressing you in this manner. Lastly, I spoke. I am the groom's sister. We oppose this marriage. Venue, silent for a moment, erupted into a commotion. I was told by the bride Rosa herself over the phone yesterday. Don't come. You unemployed poor person, you're a family disgrace. I am not unemployed and I am not poor, but my brother, the groom, sides with Rosa and doesn't believe me. Natalia continued after my accusations. It's embarrassing to say, but my daughter Rosa has been very good at ingratiating herself with men since she was young and always looked down on and ridiculed women. Her father is completely under her control. No matter how much I complained, I was the one blamed. Finally, my mother said, I don't want such a woman to be my son's wife. How cruel, Mom! How could you say that? Cindy and my mother-in-law, just because you hate me, to do something so terrible. Ross, seated at the bride and groom's table, began to cry. The men were easily deceived by these tears. The atmosphere in the venue, which had been in an uproar, seemed to be turning against us. At that moment, some people broke through that atmosphere. 3 women sitting in Rosa's friend seats stood up and began to testify about Rosa's actions and words so far. One of them took the microphone and said, "We understand very well what has just been said." She continued, explaining that Rosa's attitude is completely different in front of men and women. She quickly senses the power dynamics of a situation and ingratiates herself accordingly. Men are deceived by her appearance and gestures, feeling the need to protect her, while women who criticize her become the villains. If she finds a weakness in someone, she skillfully exploits it to make them do her bidding. They must have been holding back a lot against Rosa's past actions, and the accusations continued one after another. Finally, one of them said, I'm truly glad to have this opportunity to speak up. Even today, none of her friends wanted to come. Men really don't understand anything. People are not just what appears on the surface. Rosa and Sean were stunned. The venue erupted into a commotion. In the midst of this, Madison spoke with a grave expression.
Thank you all for taking the trouble to come here for us today. I'm sorry to have to report this unfortunate news, but we have decided to call off this marriage. In retrospect, my sister had realized the truth. It was my fault for being too excited and not listening to her properly. A woman who wouldn't even prepare a seat for my sister was clearly unacceptable as a wife.
Naturally, the aftermath was a mess. Cards were returned to everyone and we discussed the cancellation fee for the wedding reception with the venue. All the while, Rosa was weakly crying, saying, "Everyone is trying to put me down. This is such terrible treatment." Only Sean must have truly believed in his daughter's tears. Since then, Madison has been quite distrustful of women. It's understandable. Well, it's good we postponed the registration, and since we announced it at the reception venue, we didn't have to explain it to everyone individually. I tried to follow up, though it wasn't much consolation. Once away from Rosa, Madison seemed to have many realizations.
If I ever date a woman again, I'll make sure to listen to Mom and Cindy,
he said with a wry smile. In the end, the cancellation fee was split in half. Rosa and Sean were not satisfied, but Natalia forcefully settled it that way. Afterwards, Natalia handed in divorce papers and left the house. She is now free and has become noticeably brighter. Since uniting with my mother over this issue, they have become good friends and often come to visit. Rosa, having been exposed to that extent, has been abandoned by almost everyone she knew and is reportedly shut in, unable to find work again. The father who doted on his daughter and the daughter who can't do any housework are said to be living together in a chaotic house. Perhaps he only realized the value of a wife and mother after losing them, or maybe the resentment of having the wedding ruined is stronger.
Wow, that was tough. By the way, Cindy, have you ever thought about having your own workshop?
Adolf brought this up once things had settled down.
Your stuffed animals are getting good reviews. I want you to increase production a bit. I'll invest. So why don't you hire some people and start a workshop?
I appreciated the offer, but I said I couldn't rely on him that much. He replied,
"It's natural to spend money on the woman who is going to be my wife."
And just like that, he proposed. If we don't have to have a wedding ceremony or a wedding reception. After what we went through, the wedding reception has become a bit of a trauma for me. Adolf said with a laugh,
"Then let's have a party at my place."
I feel somewhat sorry for Madison, but I am a lucky person.